Dun, dun, dun.
I almost did it.
Have you ever wondered what was out there in the night sky? Stared up at the stars in the hopes of seeing something out of the ordinary? Have you heard unexplainable noises coming from a vacant room, or watched a shadow cross the wall in front of you? Have you asked yourself if there is life after this one, or if you had life before? What about strange creatures that are mythical and elusive? Have you experienced deja vu or felt a prompting to leave because you felt you were in danger? If you have, you were on the fringe.
Welcome to another exciting and possibly informative episode of On the Fringe. I'm Mark.
I'm Pam.
And I'm Jess.
Yay!
Yay!
And together we're the Wonder Triplets. Wonder Triplet powers activate.
Put our rings up. I don't have my rings on.
Me neither. I've
Super friends,
gotten
unite.
too fat for my rings. It's terrible. I know. I need to buy a whole new set. Oh, he's here for all of our nonsense.
There's Enzo. Hi, Enzo.
Nonsense.
Hey, how you doing, Enzo?
I can't wear mine because I can't wheel my wheelchair very easily with them.
I'm not wearing mine because I'm putting rats together.
Those rats
Oh,
are
nice.
so cool.
Yeah. Where's my little
Nice mice.
Nice mice. Aren't they neat?
Oh, those are cool.
They're little. I call them my derby mice. They're little racing mice.
We're gonna have a
Put them
mouse
together.
race.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Excuse me. That is a lot of fun. So we will. Anyway, tonight's episode, Night Vision Demons. It's been going around the internet for a while. So the legend is that in Vietnam they were using some experimental night vision that used red lenses. I can't remember the name of the chemical that was on them.
Something.
And it's the same thing that they used to do aura photography, I believe.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh.
Disamin.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the legend goes that almost as soon as they started using them, the soldiers would start seeing creatures to the point of opening fire on these creatures, basically freaking everybody out. And then they'd take their goggles off and there'd be nothing there. And there's a lot of speculation. Well, there's no documentation of any of this. But as you know, a lot of the stuff the government does, especially certain 3-letter agencies do, you're not going to find anything because they don't want you to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there's even any, if you do a Freedom of Information Act, they don't come up with anything. So, anyway,
We do have stories though from
there
the
are all kinds
guy.
of crazy stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the guy who was in charge of the studies while they had active troops in Vietnam.
Oh, well, let's start with that.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
there's no public.
before we dive into the stories, we should roll it back and talk a little bit about the history of how these goggles even came about.
Mm-hmm.
There you
I
go.
think.
They came about for a really good reason, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to, correct me if I'm wrong, they were trying to help with eye fatigue and things of that nature. Is that right?
Well, I'm going to roll it back even further than that. I'm going to start with the origins of these bad boys because they're going to help us understand why they did what they did and kind of the conspiracy behind it, I think.
That'll
So,
work.
yeah. So to understand the goggles, you have to understand they were talking about the chemical makeup of them. They weren't made of this chemical. This chemical, this diasin, was applied to the lenses because what it did was it filtered out different kinds of colors that we can see and only allowed through the spectrum of the reds, so that you could see a little bit more than what you normally would. You got eye fatigue because we aren't good at seeing reds. We're more good at seeing greens, and you see the green pop into the
And
night
that's what you
vision
normally
goggles
see
later.
on night
Yeah.
vision goggles. Is
They still use it today because
yes.
it shows contrast really well.
Yeah. So, previous to that, they did have scopes and stuff before then in World War II. They didn't do very well. They had the starlight scopes, I believe, that were basically just for sighting on guns, and you could only see up to like 4 times the magnification, and you couldn't adjust it. So it wasn't good for gunners that were on planes or on helicopters
And they
to
use
see.
big spotlights with red lenses.
Yeah, some of those you had to have a spotlight on them just to even see. I know the scopes ended up using moonlight, but like I said, that you couldn't adjust it, so it wasn't good for somebody in the air. And in Vietnam, it was all about the air for us. We had more in the air than than anyone else. But the beginnings of this, we're going to go all the way back to the early 1900s, to a Walter Kilner. And he is the reason why these came about in the first place. He was born in 1847, died in 1920. He was a British medical electrician, and he actually specialized in electrotherapy. He believed in auras, but he thought they were scientific. He didn't believe in the whole mystic, esoteric kind of thing of it. He believed that auras were a part of our natural life, and that if you could see them, he would be able to know if you were ill or if you were in a bad mood or what have you. So he first introduced this kind of concept, this theory, that he could create a device that would help him see people's and animals' auras, any living being. And he started doing this by taking things that they were using photography at the time, and one of which was diasin. It was a chemical they used on photography plates to help process them. And he started using all these different chemicals and these different dyes on the lenses to take away certain colors and to start doing all this. And he found with the diasin dye, alcohol and something else, I can't remember what it was, that it filtered it in such a way that he could start to see people's auras. And he claimed that he could see 3 levels of auras on everybody. He could see the outer aura and the inner aura, and then the, what was it called? He had some weird name for it. The etheric double.
Interesting.
Yes. But I think he was really onto something. The way he lists how he found everything sounds very much like how we view an aura today. Different levels, different colors coming through. It changes with your mood. It changes with, like what time of life that you're in. And he also claimed that everyone's was completely unique to their own, even when it came to animals. They all had their own unique aura, and they could actually watch it shift and change as he watched it. People bought into this very big at the time. In fact, there was magazines complaining because they thought it should be outlawed, because it should be illegal to see somebody's aura. If it's not something you can normally see, you should have to have permission
That's interesting.
to see
So-
it.
It's basically like reading their mind, I guess, if you think about it. Is probably
Exactly.
the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, like Kirlian photography.
Yeah. So, he did say that the device that he made shouldn't actually be used for very long, because it would give you headaches, it could hurt your eyes, or even blind you eventually. That it was solely a tool to use to teach yourself how to start seeing auras on your own. That it was simply like a learning device. People started saying that the Diacin was going to was the chemical that was going to hurt you, was like leaching into your skin, and it was really bad to have near your eyes. And the scientific community in a whole basically started calling it a pseudoscience. He wrote a book on it, which you can still find. It's called The Human Atmosphere, the Aura Made Visible by the Aid of Chemical Screens. And unfortunately, just 10 years later, he passed. And I think that's part of the reason why it kind of fell into a pseudoscience. He wasn't there anymore to really back up his findings. And it was really easy for the scientific community to just poo-poo it, you know, as we all know.
Yeah,
That's
nobody
what
wants
they
to lose their grant money.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those deals where if you argue with a tenured person, you're going to lose, regardless if you're right or not.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could be absolutely 100% right, and you're nobody. We're not going to listen to you.
Yeah. So he passes. The scientists are claiming, you know, this is all pseudoscience, and we're at the height right now of, you know, the spiritual movement, especially in the United States. So there's these people that are really buying into it, and then there's a whole other set that are completely denying its usefulness. And I really think this is where the Diacin myth came about. So this all passes into obscurity for a little while, and then we come into wartime, and the troops in Vietnam, of course, are having extraordinarily a lot of trouble. So if you don't know a whole lot about Vietnam, it was a war that really played out at night. It was not so much a daytime war. The guerrillas and the North Vietnamese spent most of their time ambushing and attacking in the middle of the night because the U.S. troops really had the air. And air is not useful at night when you don't have night vision.
When you don't have night vision, yeah.
Yeah. So the U.S. scrambled, the government scrambled trying to find anything that they could, you know, put forth quickly. And they, unbeknownst to a lot of people, hit Kilner's old research and drug the Diacin back out with the red vision. And that's where we're going to come into play with all these fantastic stories. And I'm going to say this before we start telling the stories and all this stuff that went on. I ended up watching, I'm sure you've seen it, Pam, the Haunted Objects podcast 2 years ago did a story on Kilner's goggles. They called them the Aurora goggles or something like that. Yep. And they had a scientist that they wrote to and asked about Diacin, and, you know, was it that chemical so awful and so bad that it would cause all these things? And come to find out, it's absolutely fine. The scientist, in fact, said that she wouldn't mind wearing the goggles all day because it was so inert. Yeah. She said the reason why they quit using Diacin for photography and stuff was simply because they just found better chemicals that worked far better. And that it wouldn't leach into anybody's skin or cause hallucinations or do any of that sort. So think about that as we put forth some of these stories that we've heard. They don't put off chemicals. So whatever was happening
was not chemically induced.
Exactly.
Well, it might have been chemically induced. We're talking Vietnam, and acid was prolific. So,
yes.
I mean, we have to keep that in mind as well.
We do.
Maybe it was just some of it was blamed on the goggles, possibly.
Possibly. I also am of the opinion, you know, we've seen MK Ultra, and the CIA was experimenting with mind control using LSD.
That's true.
And I'm wondering if LSD was so available in Vietnam because the CIA may have been making it available to see what it would do to the soldiers.
They may have been trying to make super soldiers.
Because every government, but America has at least admitted to a lot of their experimentation on soldiers and criminals and random people. The MK Ultra, they were drugging people in bars and taking them out and trying to do things to their minds. And that's where we got the Unabomber. He was a product of MK Ultra. He went insane.
That's wild.
Mhm.
And that
So,
was the problem with some of these goggle visions. They were driving people insane.
right. And there's all kinds of psychological reasons why that could be. Uh, but do keep in mind the proliferation of LSD at this point of time in the U.S. military. It's kind of a conspiracy theory, and I'm not going to say that they were. I'm just wondering if maybe it was intentional.
You know, it makes me think too, because at the time, you know, smoking was such a big thing. Everybody smoked. They would drop ship tons of cigarettes to the troops on the ground. How easy would it be to, you know, put the acid in the cigarettes? It would be nothing to do.
So
So,
I don't know.
it could happen.
It's just a little bit of speculation on my part. It's one of those things that if it was true, they didn't document it, or if any documents may have been destroyed before they were filed. You know,
Mhm.
the CIA has been known to do that as well. So keep that's something to keep in the back of your head.
So before we hit some of the other stories, I want to hit the main story. So if you all at home want to go check this out, I would suggest you do so. You can find the interview everywhere. It's all over YouTube. Back in the 90s, I think it was 80s or 90s, a gentleman named Cliff High came forward with the original story on this. I mean, these stories had been kind of floating around already, and he came forward after his father had passed to tell his father's story. His father was actually a fairly high-ranking individual during the Vietnam War, and he was put in charge of these goggles. Now, you'll hear a lot of stories of people who were actually at Vietnam who fought saying, oh, those never existed. No one ever had those. Well, not very many people did. They were only used for 60 days, and they were only used under his guidance with the gunners on the helicopters.
Yeah.
And then later on, for about a week, they were used on ground level for a couple of different opportunities, one of which we're going to hear about. I found another very interesting personal story that I wrote down so I could tell you all, because it's so much different than the other ones. I thought it was really, really interesting.
Yeah, there were some really disturbing stories.
There were.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, this gentleman's name was Cliff High. He did not name his father. I don't believe he shares the same last name. I think he has maybe a stepmother's name or something like that. So his father, of course, flew in Vietnam, and his crews were tasked with testing the goggles. So what he would do was he would put them on his gunners, because they're the ones who are sighting, who are, need to be able to see out, flying out with crews of helicopters into relatively peaceful areas where they knew there was nothing going on. They just really wanted to see how far and how well they could target with these goggles on. Pitch black, remember. So the first time they went out, he had the gunner put the goggles on and out searching, and within a minute of putting these goggles on, his gunner goes absolutely berserk screaming and starts shooting to the side of the helicopter. Where the other helicopters are flying, they're breaking up as fast as they can and getting the heck away, and he actually had to struggle and get the trigger away from the gunner because he wouldn't stop shooting. Ripped the goggles off of ripped the goggles off of him and basically shook him, and he said when he turned to look at him, his eyes were huge and just the look of horror on this man's face. And this gunner claimed that when he put the goggles on and got everything sighted, that the whole air around the helicopter was full of these flying demon things, he called them, with long uh, claws, and they were mocking him and pointing at him.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that if he didn't shoot them down, they were going to get the other helicopters.
Yep. Yeah.
Scary shit.
Could you imagine? Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That is awful.
Yeah. So this guy, he's just like, he actually admitted at the moment that he didn't think a whole lot of it. At that time, heroin was starting to go around pretty heavy with everyone, ground and air crews. And he chalked it up to, well, maybe dude was dabbling where he shouldn't have. He actually let that gunner go. I don't know what happened to the gunner. But he tested it on the next one. And it happened to every gunner he put in there. And I will say this, they all reported the exact same thing.
They did. And to the point, they even brought in officers in to say, okay, let's try somebody with a little more self-control,
Yes.
basically, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They were reporting it as well. Same things.
Yeah. So his father, towards the end of the 60 days, he's already told them, he was like, this is going to stop. I don't know what this is, and I don't know what is happening, but they were having to discharge these gunners from the military because the PTSD alone, they would stay with them for
They were
weeks.
totally freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't function. And he ultimately decided, you know what? I have never tried this on myself. I'm going to try it. And he actually tried it while he was on the ground. He was outside of one of the military buildings and thought, well, I'm going to walk out and try it on. And he went out in the middle of the night, slapped them on, and within seconds, he was seeing these flying demon things with long, scraggly, claw fingers sitting and roosting up in the trees all the way around him. And they were flying up and then coming back down and swishing over the top of him and then going back up in the trees. And he quickly ganked them off and was looking around. And of course, there was nothing in the trees. And he even made note to himself that there was some low-lying fog kind of hanging up in that tree line. And he couldn't see any disturbance in that fog. You would think if there was anything there,
right,
invisible or not, it would disturb the air enough that you would kind of see it wisp around or move. And it didn't. And he put them back on again, and they were right there.
It's interesting because we're talking about the fact maybe it was LSD or something like that. And then it wasn't a chemical that was leaching from the diacin itself. So, but then you've got somebody like this, that just
straight as an arrow.
Second, yeah. And you would think if it was something that was leaching from the chemical that it would take at least a second or two, but he's seeing it immediately. So I know we've kicked around this idea, and I know a lot of it, not just us, a lot of other people have too, that maybe it's letting them see beyond the veil into a separate dimension, and these things are actually there. We just can't perceive them. And that is probably the scariest thing of all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we've talked a lot on this show and you guys' show about a lot of what we think is paranormal is maybe interdimensional and just stuff bleeding through that's real someplace else, and we just happen to see it because we might be at the same place, but we're not in the same time stream or whatever you want to.
It's kind of like John Keel. John Keel had a theory that UFOs and aliens were completely interdimensional. He actually, in many of his books, called them UDOs, unidentified dimensional objects.
Yeah.
And that they were around us all the time, but we could not see on the frequency in which they sat in. And that's how they would just kind of blip out or disappear in front of us, because they were actually shifting. They were literally right in front of us, but we can't see them, which this would fit
I love
right
how
in.
John Keel pops up everywhere. I was actually doing some research yesterday on something completely different and kept bringing up or hitting on his, him believing in the window areas where there's basically thin spots around the earth that there's just a higher strangeness in the area. So, yeah, John Keel's Was an interesting dude.
And that's interesting because, you know, if you look at the interdimensional theory, it explains so much paranormal stuff,
Mhm.
uh, which, according to, we've talked about this before, according to quantum physics, the other dimensions have to exist in order for quantum physics to work.
Yeah, well, it's been proven at least what, 12 dimensions, 11, 12 dimensions for sure.
Something like that for sure. So if you think about it, and we get all these stories that seem like things have slipped through dimensions or we've seen through dimensions, if this is happening accidentally, it should absolutely be possible to make it happen technologically at some point.
Hmm.
And it's possible that we already have, it's just been covered up.
Yeah. Enzo just said, I've always wondered about UFOs being seen around nuclear power and weapon sites. Maybe there's something about radioactive material that allows us to see them, and they are everywhere all the time. That's very possible. Yeah.
Or they're monitoring and they have to come out of whatever dimension they are to get a good sensor read.
Or whatever, maybe something with the power plant itself or sites.
Well, yeah, think about the amount of
This is
electromagnetic
what they're
radiation.
cooking, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the amount of electromagnetic radiation coming
Yeah.
from one of these plants is enough to give you cancer
Hmm.
if you're around
Yeah.
it too much. What's it going to do to anything else?
Yeah.
You know, it interferes with technology. It's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting just from the point of view of visual color. So these goggles with the red dye, with this diasin dye, they're not infrared. They're not some kind of special infrared. They're literally just letting
glass
you
lenses.
see the red. And of course, you know, like as everyone knows, most of us only have 2 cones, I believe, in our eyes.
Codes, yeah.
If you have 3, you have exceptional. You can see millions of colors. It's very, very rare. But of course, a lot of animals have much more than that. Of course, we know dogs and cats have more cones than that. And I think there's some kind of an insect or something like that has like 18.
Oh, yeah. Well, and what is the other? There's something else. It's a sea creature that has like so many that we can't even fathom what it is that they can see in the world around them. You know?
Yeah. So if you look at things from that point of view, like we obviously are not seeing everything that we could possibly see. So, you know, what if this stuff like UFOs and things that we think are interdimensional, maybe they're not interdimensional at all. Maybe they're within our dimension, but we're not capable of seeing them.
That makes sense. I mean, like dogs, they have way more rods and cones, you know, and theirs go along the outside of their eyes where we have very few, but we have them, and that's where they set.
Yeah, our rods, which allow us to see at night,
Yes.
are concentrated, so light coming in from the side.
Yep.
So that's why you see things out of the corner of your eye that you don't see when you turn and look at it.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And that's why sometimes you might catch an entity or something out of the corner of your eye, but yeah, it's not there when you turn to look. But animals, you know, it's obvious they can see stuff we can't.
Well,
you know?
Yeah.
Even when I was hunting all the time, when I was sitting up in a blind, I would see better out of the side of my, you know, out of the sides than I could out in front of me. So, your range.
Yeah,
I
I just think
it's
I think it's super interesting. So besides these gunners and stuff seeing these what they thought were demons everywhere and driving them absolutely insane and having them discharged, one of the other reasons why they discontinued these and went to the green format was because the human eye has a really hard time deciphering reds. It's stressful. And it's probably one of the reasons why Kilner had all those issues. He would use those for a long time. He would get eye fatigue. He would get headaches. And I'm sure the whole, if you used it long enough, you would go blind was probably just a made up thing, because nowhere in my research did I ever see where someone went blind using a Kilner screen.
might be one of the don't do this or you'll go blind kind of scare tactics.
Yeah, I think so. But interestingly enough, so if we were to hypothesize that you can see these extraordinary beings that we can't normally see every day because we're seeing it through this vision of red, but it's so stressful to our eyes that we can't do it for very long. Obviously, we were made not to see these for some reason.
Enzo, he pointed out, thank you for that, Enzo, that it's mantis shrimp. That's the sea creature I was trying to think of. Has a complex visual system with up to 12 or even 16 different types of photoreceptors. So who knows what these little silly shrimp,
Yeah,
they see that we don't see.
Tripping out on the ocean floor.
Right?
I see smells.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I smell colors.
Yeah, so the stories, there aren't tons of stories of people using these goggles and then what they saw, because the majority of them belong to these gunners and some of the friends of the gunners who were on those helicopters who tried them on and saw the exact same thing. Nearly all the stories are identical, and I think that really says something.
Yeah, and it's a very small sample group too.
Yes,
I mean,
especially within the military itself. I mean, we've learned over the years with the UFO stuff, you just don't talk about stuff like that. You'll lose your position.
Yeah.
and you'll never work in certain industries ever again because they'll blackball you.
I mean, yeah, in the military, rank is everything. You don't want to go back down. You only want to go up. And the fact that these men were so quite willing to yell this out. I mean, they yelled when they saw these things. They were absolutely frightened and scared. And as far as this captain was concerned, who was in charge of this original batch, he vouched for all of them. He was like, I never saw, he said he'd seen men that were on the local heroin that was passing around and some of the other nastiness they were trying. But he was like, I know what they look like when they're going through this, when they're on something. And he goes, I did not see this with these men. They were literally scared out of their skulls.
So there's a guy, and I can't think of his name. I was trying to look it up just now. He runs the Museum of Tarot out of Nashville, Tennessee. And he's the one that we got the Annals of Kentucky from, basically.
Oh.
He runs experiments and makes Dicyanic goggles now.
Ooh.
And has for a while.
Oh, really?
Uses them in different things. Runs different little testing. I haven't heard of him do it in a while, but I don't follow him that closely. So I don't know if he's really done anything recent, but I know at least last year and the year before he was working with it. So yeah, I think it would be really fascinating to try.
That would be, especially now that
maybe.
I mean, I'm already crazy, so what's it going to hurt?
So I have a couple of stories from gentlemen who were not in the air. They did test this on the ground a little bit, and I found a couple of fairly credible stories that I wrote down. So the first one, this gentleman was part of a group of ground troops that was tasked to watch an area where there were bodies left over from a battle that day. That had taken place that day, to see if the North Vietnamese would come in the middle of the night to rob the bodies. I think they were almost baiting a trap again to see if they could get them lured in, because they would do that. They would come in and steal boots, guns, anything that they could pick off of those bodies. And what a terrible job, you know what I mean?
Right.
To have to watch that. So they told them where to go, sent them out. The gentleman set up a fair distance away, had the goggles. And nothing seemed to go awry all night long. They watched, and none of the North Vietnamese came in. They didn't see anybody come in, just the bodies. And when it came on towards morning, they were passing the goggles around, and it got light enough that they could kind of see out into this field. and they realized there were no bodies out there. But when
Oh,
they put the
wow.
goggles on, they could see the bodies. And when they took the goggles off, the bodies
That's
were gone
interesting.
again. Freaked them out. They ended up going back to where they were supposed to go, and they were like, there weren't any bodies there. Apparently, they had gone to the wrong field completely. They were in a field where the battle had not happened. There shouldn't have been any bodies there,
So
but
they
they
were
could see
seeing what
them.
they expected to see.
That's interesting.
That
Yeah.
is interesting.
They watched non-existent dead bodies all night long
You
through
know,
these
the
goggles.
human mind is so tricky anyway. You know, that's wild. That's
Yeah.
wild.
It's the interesting thing is, even if it was like a self, a self-satisfying hallucinatory kind of thing, as like a placebo type of pill situation,
Right.
why did they continue to see the bodies when they put the goggles on? You'd think
Oh,
that they
that's a
wouldn't
good
be there
point.
anymore.
That's a good point.
And they passed them around. He said that there was a good group of them in there, and they passed those around to everyone, and they all said they could see the bodies until they took them away.
Didn't.
That's wild. Well, I mean, if you
Crazy.
think about, the multi-dimension theory of, there's the idea of every split second we make a decision to do something. Like, in this particular timeline, I'm going to pick up my phone, and maybe I didn't do that, so that splits off to a different timeline. So what if in that case it's more of a matter of, in a different dimension there was a battle on that field and they just happened to be tuning in to that particular dimension with the goggles?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Who knows? It's a pretty fascinating subject. I mean, whether you're talking about psychology or pharmacology or demonology, it's
Any of the ology.
weird. All the ologies are weird on this one.
Yes, they are.
Apologies.
All the ology.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the
So
most
I
educated guy. Sorry.
I found a handful of other stories that weren't even close to that, but they were just little tidbits and pieces that really didn't make a full story. So I didn't know how credible they were, if they were just somebody making a half-assed recollection. But I did find another one that I thought was interesting, and it was reported by two men who were in the same group, and it had a little bit more meat to it. So I thought that was enough to bring it forth for everybody to hear. So this was another group of ground troops that were tasked to go in and clean out a wooded area. And by that, I went and looked it up just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. They were tasked with going in and making sure that none of the Viet Cong had been hiding out in there, or were hiding out in there, or were prepping to hide out in there. Apparently, they would go in and drop supplies and hide it, so that then when they moved into the area, they had a kind of a spot to sit out in. And this ground troop was tasked with going in and cleaning out the area to make sure that there wasn't anything waiting for anyone in there. So these gentlemen go in there and they have the night scopes because they want to do it at night under the cover of darkness so they're not detected. And they all claimed that they didn't go into the wooded area, because just outside the wooded area, as they started looking in to see if they could see any movement or anyone in there, they were watching these creatures, and they didn't say exactly what they looked like. They did say that they were twice the size as normal men, and they were winged, and they were watching them jump from tree to tree inside the wooded area, both on the ground and up in the trees. And they were
That's not
leaning out.
creepy.
No.
Yeah, they were leaning out and looking at them. They were grouping up and like pointing, like, do you see those over there? And then they would hide again and then pop back out. Twice the size as a human man. I would have noped right on out of there too.
So you know what gets me? It never fails that before we do these episodes, I don't find something that's truly interesting till we're right in the middle of an episode. I just happened to hit the Museum of Tarot to see what they had, and they have an article on seeing demons in the dark, red night vision in Vietnam.
Cool.
But they also have attached in there a PDF of some academic documentation. It's from the U.S. Naval Academy, and it's titled "The Secret of Seeing Charlie in the Dark." and it recounts how soldiers used both the starlight scopes and thermal viewers, and that they described dragons, animated foliage, and the phantom corpses, like you were talking about, suggesting that it, may have amplified hallucinations or revealed something even stranger. So that might be something interesting. I just downloaded it and dropped it in our Bordertown drive under books. So we'll have it in there to look at.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
let me see if I can find it. And I'll drop it in the chat too.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about just slightly, and it kind of goes with, like the UFO thing, like, are they around us all the time? This gentleman, this captain who was in charge of this research, he actually had the same kind of idea. Only he believed that these demon-like entities that he eventually got to see were actually being drawn into the area by the horrors of the war that was going on around it. And that probably they wouldn't be seen otherwise, but simply for the fact that the atrocities that were happening was drawing these kind of evil things in, and that's why they were so clustered around everything. Which I have to give a little credence to. I always, it from personal experience, when you have a feeling about something, go with your gut.
Mm-hmm.
He may very well have been right.
Yeah.
It's very possible. It's interesting that there is a company now that has night vision with that kind of red lens in it now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why is it failing to post?
They're fairly expensive, though, so I'm not going to be running out and buying one.
Yeah. But that's pretty much like the basics of that story. It really did happen. And obviously the military realized that this was not going to work for them, so they very quickly switched to the green plates. Because, like I said, the human eye can see so many different colors of green so easily. It's the safest and the easiest to look through, and these gentlemen looked through them all night. I found one story. This gentleman was giving an interview, and he had talked about using these scopes during Saudi Arabia. And what they would do was they would only wear one. They would wear one over one eye and leave the other eye open for, targeting if they needed to really quick. And they became so used to it, their eyes would adjust and they would see the green at the same time they were seeing the regular. And their brains eventually learned to put it together.
It's almost
And
like the 3D glasses that you get at movies.
Exactly. Yep. And he said it was so completely unnatural that when, they left, like they weren't using them anymore, he actually had a hard time seeing at night because his eye automatically wanted to adjust to the secondary. Yeah.
Mark, I tried to paste that into our chat and it wouldn't work, but it would paste into the private chat. So can you go grab that from there and drop it in that link?
No, I can. Let me find the private.
Thank you. I don't know why it won't let me. I tried it twice. It let me do it in the private for whatever reason.
Open link in new tab. And new tab. Come on.
But it might be an interesting little article too.
It is not opening.
Is it not?
Here it is.
I wonder.
Yep, hold on. Let me share. Share screen. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just type in Museum of Tarot and then like night vision or Vietnam, it'll pull it up.
Yeah, it will.
So for those of you
It's a pretty long article, actually.
Yeah, and then about halfway down, there's a link to a PDF.
Yes.
Yeah, right there. The Secret of Seeing Charlie in the Dark.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're interested in the interview with Cliff High, you can find it all over YouTube. Just write in Cliff High, and High is High. Cliff High Vietnam goggles. You can type in something as simple as that, and you'll find scads.
I
He's
saw
done
3
the
or 4
interview.
copies of that interview. Not even
Yeah.
hardly looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
It's
Jess said
super
earlier, Haunted Objects podcast last year, they did a really, really interesting segment on the goggles. That is
Yes.
worth a watch.
Yeah, they're hilarious, and they do a really good deep dive on it. You'll hear way more than what I spoke of today. They don't actually go into the whole Vietnam part of it. They don't go much beyond Kilner's life, but really interesting read, or really interesting watch or listen if you. They're also on just the regular podcast providers if you just want to listen.
They're very
Really
highly
interesting.
entertaining too, informative
Yes,
and
they-
entertaining.
Yes.
Speaking of, I found out where they're going to be at in Oklahoma. Of all places,
Oh.
they'll be in Enid.
For what?
They're part of a weird day of lectures. There's 4 different lectures that are occurring, and they're going to be number 3 in the lineup. So
I'm gonna be there.
March 21st. I found
March
the date.
21st. Okay.
They didn't release a date or anything. I just happened to punch it in, and it popped up Enid, Oklahoma. I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's wild."
Oh,
I don't
am
know
so
who else is
there.
going to be part of it yet, but yeah.
Wow.
We will have to look into that. That will be that's a fun day trip.
Yes,
It is.
and they are fun to watch. And last
They
time
are.
Dana had COVID, so we only got to see Greg. So hopefully she won't have COVID this time.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully.
They're both there.
Right.
So
Well, I mean-
before I know we're kind of heading out towards the end here. I found some stories about night vision goggles that we have now. Did you guys
Yeah.
find some of those?
I did see some snippets about it. Not enough for me to really come up with
Tell us what
nothing.
you found.
Nothing written. I found some videos.
I found a couple little blurbs. They're often used at battlefields, oddly enough. Apparently Gettysburg is a big one where they use these night vision goggles at. There's claims that if you sit there long enough with them, you once in a while will see an entity pop up, someone on the battlefield,
A
which I
higher
thought was
than
kind of interesting.
regular probability of seeing something. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting.
Talking about this stuff, you know what it kind of reminds me of, and it's completely unrelated, but it just popped in my head. Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
You know, in World War II, there was claims of seeing these little gremlin-y creatures on the planes, around the planes and stuff, and they were
Mhm.
called Foo Fighters. And in fact, that's where the band got its name. The Foo
Yeah.
Fighters was from that. Then they completely regret using that because it really didn't mean anything. They just thought it was a cool word. But yeah, so there's also stories during wartime of creatures being seen without goggles too. So
Yeah. Actually, gremlins
yeah.
sabotaging planes and whatnot, especially in the Asian theater.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's interesting. Almost all the Asian cultures talk about creatures beyond the veil that people have seen with their eyes, whether it be kami or other creatures that made themselves known. Japanese culture is full of them, but
Mhm.
there are similar stories in all the Asian cultures about seeing creatures like that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, and we're talking about Asia. I mean, Vietnam. Is there something about that area that's just lends itself to strange things in the night?
Maybe.
And you know, and that this also brings up the are we seeing a I just lost my word. Where you just think something into being.
Oh, like
like a
tulpa?
tulpa.
Tulpa effect, yes.
Yeah.
Tulpa effect. If you've got millions of people that believe these creatures are running around in the forest
Yeah.
all the time, whether you're part of that culture or not, they may be making that manifest.
Yeah.
Whether it's
People pour enough energy into a situation. Yeah.
so, I mean, there's that too, and the psychological effects of it. Because if you leave the red goggles on too long, it starts giving you headaches and causes all sorts of physiological effects. So what if you have this tulpa effect going on, and then people are not quite in their right minds because the red is really bothering them? That's one of the reasons why they went away from red. Not only do you not see as well, it does affect your brain.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it could be a combination of things. It could be a lot of hoo-ha. I would like to think that they really saw something. Uh,
I
but
think they did. There was
it's difficult to tell with no real documentation. Uh, I'm sorry, documentation is makes it proving your case a lot easier, and that may be why it doesn't exist.
The fear that these guys came away with, and the PTSD, even though it wasn't called PTSD at the time.
no, it wasn't.
No.
I
It
can't
was
remember
just
what
easy
they
to
called
call
it.
it
Shell shock.
that. So
Yeah, shell shock. Yeah.
shell shock.
Yeah, that was too prevalent with these reports to think that they didn't see something.
Yeah.
They had to have seen something.
Right.
And even for the officers to put them on and be like, "Oh shit, there's stuff here." They're not lying.
Well, and it's weird that it's almost immediately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that guy from the Museum of Tarot getting the same thing?
You know what? I can't remember. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's been too long since they are
we
using.
We know it's not the chemical though.
Yeah.
Because
Right, we know
the
it's not
scientists have
chemical.
said that diacin, it's inert. It doesn't do anything. So,
So
we know
basically,
it's not a chemical.
the Museum of Tarot, they have the dicyanin, but they call them aura goggles, and they use them more to see auras than they do creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Carillion photography is so expensive to do.
Yeah.
Although they have proven that it does see energy.
And I would absolutely love to have a photograph taken like that of my leg, because I have heard and I have seen photographs that have been taken of the one that I'm thinking of is someone that had lost their forearm, and they took the photo and you can see the aura of where their hand and their missing arm should be.
Wow.
Could be,
So
yeah.
I would
That's
love to
interesting.
see. Yeah, because like for my leg, my accident was 31 years ago, but I can still wiggle my toes even though they're not there. So, and I still have that depth perception when I walk, that my foot's hitting the ground. So my, in my brain, it's opposite of like being a paraplegic or whatever, where the nerves are severed and your body doesn't think it's there anymore. My body still thinks it's there. So with that in mind, my brain thinks it's there. So I'd be really curious to see if it shows up on photography.
That would be
So
interesting.
Cool.
when my mother was still keeping her RN license up, she attended a class called the Healing Touch. And it was basically about aura. And they did an experiment. And so you would go and run your hands right above somebody. You wouldn't touch them. Run your hand above somebody and say, okay. And you could feel where they were hurting through your hand. And as you ran, it was like petting a cat, but not touching. As you ran your hand by, the people would claim to feel the pain lessening. And she tried it. It worked.
That's similar to what our friend Christy does with some things.
And it was just the human nervous system and the energy field around it. You could feel the disturbances, is how they explained it. And it was just one of those things that one of those seminars she went to just to get hours.
Yeah,
And it was really interesting. She told us about it. It was pretty interesting.
that's pretty cool. Enzo said Krillian photography of leaves where they cut off a part of the leaf and it's still there in the photo. That's
Yeah, I've seen that.
wild. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I have seen that. So, I mean, there's something to it. Is it a bunch of stuff that's been mashed together in a giant story ball? Maybe. But I think these guys saw something.
Mhm.
I would hopefully like to find some sort of documentation at some point. I'd like to dive deeper into it. There's just not a huge amount of information out there.
There's not. But you know what's interesting is the fact that they only used them such a short amount of time and they pulled them. That tends to lend credibility to it as well.
Well, it means a high frequency of bad things happening. It was like, oh, let's get rid of this crap.
Yeah, screw
Whose
this.
dumb idea was that? I don't know what idea you're talking about. I didn't have it.
Yeah. It's
I don't know what
yet
happened.
another horror story of the military dipping their fingers in where they don't belong.
Well,
And
Like
people
them
who
messing
don't
with
believe,
Tesla stuff and
Rather
people who
than
don't believe that the military does experiments like that just need to look at some of these conspiracy theories that they have admitted to.
oh yeah.
So we've got the testing of stuff on prisoners
Yeah.
without their knowledge or permission. We've got the Tuskegee experiments where they gave syphilis to
Yes.
hundreds of black men so they could see how they died.
Yeah.
The Navy shelled San Francisco, claiming it was an accidental firing to see how a fairly harmless bacteria would propagate through the hospitals. It did actually take one person's life because they didn't get treated. There's the American history is full of all that, and just wonder what everybody else's less than benevolent government may have done to them.
yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
You know, we're lucky here in America because we've got a fairly transparent government. I mean, fairly, it's not completely. We all know that they all do things behind the
We're
scenes.
both like, really?
But compared to other countries, yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know about that.
but the only difference between our country and everybody else's is ours is fessed up when they've got caught.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Enzo said, I wonder if these entities actually can see or can interact with us or our world. Seeing them sitting in the top of a tree with fog and the tree and the fog are unaffected, can they touch us?
That was,
Well, no.
I don't know if they could touch us, but I know that they interacted. They pointed and mocked and, made eye contact with these men. Even the captain said that they had made eye contact when they were up in the trees, that they were like swooping at him purposefully. So,
Like man bats.
So
Mothman.
yeah.
it makes me wonder, did they realize they could see them? Is that why they were dive bombing them and freaking
I
them
think
out?
so. Like they were like, "Oh, they're seeing us all of a sudden."
Let's
It's
mess
kind of
with
like
these guys. It'll be fun.
a medium or a psychic that comes into an area and suddenly, they're
Shines
coated
brightly
in spirit. Yeah, and they're, back off. Oh, she or he can see us. I think it was that kind of a thing. Only I don't think these beings were quite about needing or wanting help or any kind of benevolence. I think they were.
Almost sounds like Jen.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
It's
But
right.
But you know what this reminds me of? Like, this is, I mean, it's not exactly the same kind of tech, but it just kind of reminds me of all the stuff that started happening with the Xbox 360 cameras that we now use for ghost hunting, and all the smart car stuff that's happening now. Have you seen all the smart car
where they're like
videos?
driving through a cemetery and all these people start walking next to the car.
Well, the ones that freak me out the most are the ones where like the car will slam on its brakes because it's just watched a human walk in front of the vehicle and there's no one
nothing
there.
there. Yeah.
That's wild.
That's strange. Well, and these, like the Kinect, for instance, it's shooting out millions of little dots of IR light and then mapping anything that breaks those dots.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it when you were playing the games with it, it tracked your movement. And how this came about was uh there'd all of a sudden be a second player or something,
Yeah.
and they started experimenting with the cameras, and I
We've
need to
had
get me a Kinect camera and play with it.
we've had some really good luck with that type of photography, and
Yes.
especially in one particular case that I know you guys remember. Um, that was in an old boys' home. That there were
The
multiple
fairy
little,
house.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
and those aren't terribly efficient
Fairies.
because they're not putting out all the little dots.
no,
Mm-hmm.
and it was wild because there was one that we could see standing on a bed. And the owner was brave enough to walk in and stand on the bed and hold her hand out, and it reached out and put its hand in her hand, and she felt it. We didn't tell her it was there. She was like, "It's touching me," and we're like, "Yeah, it is touching you.
It is.
It is touching you." We took a picture of it, and you can see her with her hand extended, and it's got its hand in hers. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty wild. But the one bathroom where they were having a lot of problems, they were almost like ants in there. There were so
Yeah.
many of them.
Clustered in the window.
Yeah.
Set
And that
some
was
ant
the
traps
most
out.
that was one of the most exciting things I've ever seen. First of all, I'd never seen, it makes the little stick figures to mark a body. Like 20 little teeny tiny stick figures clustered in this window, and you would take one step inside of that bathroom and they would vanish.
Yeah. And then if you stood still, they'd slowly start coming back.
Yeah,
And they weren't like just still, like it was a reflection or something. They were all moving independently of each other.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
like a cluster of ants in the window.
Mm-hmm. And another interesting thing, I always, because people are like, oh, it's just picking up the pattern of the curtain or whatever was behind or whatever. That was one of the most interesting things about this particular little video. There were curtains on this window, but they weren't completely closed. It was a little flower print. And I understand, it may want to matrix something out of a flower print.
Right.
But you had the flower prints, and then you just had a black window behind it, open to the darkness outside, and those little critters moved in front of that and then back in front of the curtains and back out again. So it wasn't sitting there, matrixing what it was seeing behind it.
Yeah, it was like blackness outside, and it was just like a solid white, painted windowsill. So yeah, they were on top of the windowsill moving. They weren't like in front of it or in front of just the curtains. They were on the windowsill itself. It's fascinating.
So interesting. It's just, what are we not seeing that's right in front of us?
Yeah, I would like to see some actual trained scientists working on some of these things and not just poo-pooing them because they want to get grant money.
Well, I'm sure there probably are. They're just, we don't get to hear about them.
Yeah.
I was going to say, a bunch of us groups ought to get together and provide funding to somebody smart.
Funding? Somebody needs to provide funding to me.
What's this money thing that you have? I don't know what this is.
Something I'm getting ready to not have any of because I'm going car shopping.
Oh boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'll take a chunk out of your income for sure.
Well, be a week's pay every month that's going on.
Yep. Yep.
Well, at least you'll be going for a nice car that you can rely on and not for fixes.
Yeah, that's true.
Month.
Well, I can always make my son drive me.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah, because that's what you want. You want to have to rely on him.
I have to not look at the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should go buy that new car.
Yeah.
I know your son. Go buy a car.
Yeah, I'm also going. Have you seen the deer on the road lately? I'm going to invest in a deer
and
a cow catcher for the front of my car.
So bad. Yeah,
it's like the deer apocalypse on the way to Coffeyville. There's a body every 5 feet.
There's big red smears all over the highway. There was at least 6 of those on the 15 miles to work. It's like every other mile, there's another big red spot. Well, there, another one bites the dust.
Yeah. Enzo said, I'm marginal on the Connect videos. The system is trying to make patterns out of what it's seeing. I feel the biggest mistake is when they're moving the camera around and say something is moving. Yeah, that is an issue.
Yeah.
That is an issue.
Yep. You
I
have
really
to-
think for that to really work, it needs to be on a tripod.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
it
would
needs to
be
be
even
still.
better. That would be ideal.
Mhm.
I still think we
Yeah.
need to get one and experiment with it, though.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Very cool.
Cool.
did your guys' screen just flash?
It did.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the interweb. Maybe it's not my computer.
I don't know. But there you go. What is our final idea on it? Do we think they were actually seeing something? Was it working as like a portal type situation?
I think they were seeing something. Not only do we have their reports, we have the terror, we have the PTSD, and we have the government yanking it back from them
Mhm.
quickly.
Yep.
Those things make me think that there's something to it.
I'm withholding a final decision. I want to believe that these guys actually saw something. It sounds credible. But until I see some kind of documentation show up,
Mhm.
I'm going to be on the fence.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to believe because they do. The stories seem somewhat credible to me,
Mhm.
and it kind of goes with what we've been talking about all this time with the multidimensional stuff. And, you know, it may have been a combination of stress and the red and, you know, all the stuff that, you know, the Asian proliferation of creatures that people see.
Mhm.
I definitely think there could be something to it, but I'm going to wait for a little while before I make up my mind. For sure.
That's fair.
Well, I think that the proof is in the pudding. So if you look at the entire story, the entirety from the beginning of when this was kind of invented, clear through until the Vietnam War when it was discontinued, I think the stories are absolutely legit, especially from that captain, because he knew the history of the Diason. How could someone have made up a story, gone back to 1911 to root up something like that and bring it back to be used in the Vietnam War as a farce? They knew too much about how it worked, the history of it, I think, for it to have been faked. And I don't believe we'll probably ever get any I don't think there was probably any paperwork done on it. It was done secretly. It was only tested for 60 quick days. They gave it to a no-name captain to try it on his gunners. It didn't work and they tossed it.
So do you think it was the actual army or do you think it was the CIA?
I think it was just the military. I think they were really needing some night vision to get a one-up on the North Vietnam and the Viet Cong. And they were desperately trying anything.
And that was cheap.
Yeah, it was cheap. They went back and they were like, oh, this dude had this here and it was doing something. Let's try it. And I think they tried it and it failed horribly. They chucked it and just kept moving on.
The Viet Cong ate their lunch in that war too, because they were not only completely out of their territory.
Yeah.
These guys, they were dug in. There was tunnels everywhere. There were swamps everywhere that were causing all kinds of medical conditions with the soldiers that were on the ground. So it was a horrible war to try to fight.
Yeah.
Not to mention the dioxin that they were spraying on to defoliate the forests. My dad and my wife's dad were both exposed to the Agent Orange, and both of them had medical issues because of it. What else did they try that we don't know about?
Yeah, that's just one of the biggies that we do know about.
Yeah,
and they denied it. They told my dad he was crazy.
Yeah, they did, unfortunately. And the really sad part about that was these guys fought for their country, for our freedom. And when they came back, they were treated horribly.
Yep.
You know,
And then the government treated them horribly because you know why?
Yeah.
Money. It's too expensive. We made these guys sick, and we don't want to pay for it.
Yep.
It's just like the burn pits in the Middle East.
Mhm.
These guys who were around the burn pits, and they were burning hazardous chemicals. They were burning out of date chemical weapons that they found that didn't exist, but they found inert ones that had gone bad, so they didn't want to count them. But when they burned them, they were putting toxic stuff out in the air, and it's still causing people problems today. And oh no, that doesn't do anything.
Have you guys heard? And this was just like last week where I was seeing this. DDT was a big deal. It was used on pesticides for everything, and it was causing cancer. So they pulled it back. And just off the coast of California, off the San Francisco Bay, it's very close to an island out there. Can't remember the name of the island. There's like 25,000 barrels that they have discovered on the sea floor that are leaching DDT because it was made in California, and when it was outlawed, they had to do something with it. They barreled it up, they threw it in the ocean, and the really bad part was to keep the barrels sunk. A lot of them knocked holes in the barrels, and there's like a super high concentration of cancer in seals out in that area.
Oh,
Yeah.
From that.
People are kind of dumb, and governments especially are even dumber. I'll tell you a story that I heard in a psychology class when I was in college. We had a debate, and the teacher made us debate each side of the problem. Should corporations have the same rights as a person, like you and me? And so there was the yes team and the no team. And then at the end of it, well, the teacher says, "Now, I want you to tell you you're both right and you're both wrong." So yes, corporations should have rights, but they shouldn't be considered like people, because if you judge a corporation or a government by the standards you would judge a human being, every one of them has schizophrenia and multiple personalities, because there are so many voices going all the time trying to make decisions that it just turns into chaos. And that's we see that with government all the time. There's so many voices out there in the wilderness, and the government often actually works against itself. Companies that I've worked for that I can't name, I've seen it happen. I worked for a company that almost put itself out of business 2 years in a row before somebody bought them and fixed them. It's insane. It's literally insane. If they were a person, they would be literally insane.
There's a saying that what is a giraffe? I believe it's a giraffe. It's a horse built by a committee.
There you go.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Leftover
sense.
parts.
Yep.
That looks like it'll work fine, Fred. Let's put that right on there.
Nobody can agree on anything. I think it's a giraffe. I could be wrong, but it's something funky, or maybe it's a camel. What's a camel? A horse built by a committee. That might be it.
It's so funny.
Ian said there's an island off the coast of Scotland completely out of bounds after the UK government decided to chuck anthrax all over it. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's
on
fucking intelligent. Pardon my French.
On the island. Yikes.
My goodness.
That's
intelligent.
Crazy.
It's a government. All governments are crazy. All corporations are crazy.
Yeah.
Too many people, too many voices. And then there's the money. Well, what do we do to save money? Well, Fred, we're going to go dump it out in the ocean.
because it's not their problem in 50 years.
Oh,
It's
that's right. They'll
somebody
be
else's
dead.
problem
They
in
don't
50
care.
years. Yeah.
Our grandkids will figure something out. It'll be all right.
God.
I'm not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
No, I see myself thinking that way once in a while. I was like, I don't care. My kids can deal with it. Sorry, kids. I ain't gonna live 20 years. You can worry about it.
Unfortunately, I think that's pretty much
That's
the
pretty much
eye of
it.
it. They'll pass it down to the next generation to
Pass
deal
the
with.
buck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometime that buck's gonna stop.
Fascinating topic tonight, though.
It is,
Yeah.
even though we did get in the weeds a little bit, but
I don't
even
think
though
we
there's
did.
not a
Not too bad.
there's
Not not any more than normal.
No.
well, actually, we're doing pretty good lately. I don't know. It is an interesting topic. I wish there was more information out there on it. That is the only thing wrong with this topic.
I'd agree.
Almost all the information is based on just a few stories, but they only did it for 60 days in a very small test group, so there's not going to be a lot of stories.
Right.
So,
And it had spectacularly disastrous consequences.
and I can see somebody going like, Bob, this never happened.
Yeah.
It was a small enough group. Nobody actually died.
Yeah. But did you die?
Trash can.
You just mentally screwed up the rest of your life. But did you die?
Yeah, exactly. But did anybody die? Nope. It didn't happen.
At least not then. They may have later.
Yeah. Who knows
I
what kind of problem?
wonder. I don't know how. Well, I don't know how available the records are from the Vietnam War, but it would be interesting if somebody had the time to sit down and go really pick through records and see if there was a section of time, a 2-month shred of time where a lot of gunners out of a particular battalion
That would be an interesting research project.
let go.
Yeah.
Because that might prove it right there. You could probably wheedle it down.
Yeah,
If it
a
really
whole
truly did
if
happen.
a whole bunch of door gunners got discharged in a 60-day period,
Yeah, from the same, groups, that would probably prove it, I would think. But I don't know, I wouldn't know the first thing about trying to start that.
I wouldn't either.
No.
Hell, I can barely research a show, let alone.
Could you imagine the FOIA you'd have to go through to try to
Oh yeah.
request to try to even?
For one, you would have to find out the name of the operation or the name of the experiment.
Yeah.
Then you might. There's probably is if this happened, there probably is some kind of documentation somewhere.
And honestly, do you think?
But you've got to ask for it specifically, and if your FOIA is too vague, you're not going to get anything.
I wonder if it was even considered an experiment, or was it just
I don't think it would have been.
Yeah, here's these goggles that you can see
Yeah.
really well at night with.
I think that's literally what it was. I think that they handed this captain, this dude who was in charge,
This is
these
supposed to work. Tell us how it works.
and they were like, "Hey, we've got these new night vision thingies. Test them out with your gunners and see if they help out anymore." And I think after that 60 days, when that captain put his foot down and was like, "We can't do this anymore. I can't do this to my guys," they were like, "All right," and they chucked it and moved on with what else they were using.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I can see it happening. I definitely can.
Yeah.
But like I said, our history is full of the government and particularly the military doing shady stuff, and I don't know what you're talking about. Damn conspiracy theorists.
For sure.
Well, with that being said, I think we're about done for the evening. You guys got anything else you want to share? I have heard a few whispers of people still seeing weird things on night vision.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping somebody will get some video. We should probably look into that again.
Yeah.
About weird things people catch on night vision, but nothing as spectacular as this.
Yeah. This was the
Pretty cool.
granddaddy for sure.
Yeah. So it was a fun project to look into.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, everybody have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. Watch us on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Have a good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
Before we
night.
go, what are you guys going to be talking about a week from Wednesday?
Pam has forgotten. So it's going to be a big show. In fact, we should have Mark on because it's one of Mark's favorite topics. We are going to talk about Fiona Broom,
Oh, that's
Mr.
right.
Stain,
Yes.
and the Mandela.
Yes.
Okay. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in.
So, like, put on your Fruit of the Loom and grab your Fruit Loops because we're going to hit it.
Every day's a new day to me. So yay.
You will freak out if I show up with a bowl of Fruit Loops and win.
I will not. I will be all about it.
All right. I could bring the Fruit Loops from work.
There you
They
go.
might not fit in my office though.
Let him stand around everywhere.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right,
Catch
guys.
that. Yeah. No, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central.
All right. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for stopping by.
Night, everybody.
Good night.